blockchain. So blockchain, who has an idea of what blockchain is? Anybody have an idea of what a blockchain technology is that goes out?
It's basically a technology where copy it like a puzzle. There's not a piece that is the exact same.
Okay.
Each piece is unique and not copy it.
Yeah, so I'm not a computer programmer. I don't know, all the ins and outs of, it's over my head as well. But from how I get explained what it is, the technology that was created it was like a private ledger. Okay, banks have ledgers. That's why we use them and need them. Is because you owe so and so money, and the bank will keep those records and be the middleman, right? So this was like a private ledger that was created. It doesn't have necessarily government. It was open source. Many people could join the ledger, participate in the actions that were on this ledger. And so what happened was they created this technology called blockchain technology. Basically, how it works is all the different computers that are connected to this network have to be in agreement on whether the next block that was going to be added to the chain was correct information. And so once all of the computers that were working on the block that is currently being worked on, once they were upon agreement and all the space had been filled for that block of information, then they could verify that that block was accurate through consensus of all of the different, they call them nodes, but they're different computer networks, right? Or computers working together to solve this problem. Once that information was verified, then it was added to the chain. Okay, so from the very, very beginning of Bitcoin, you can go back and look at every single transaction. And every single transaction has been verified by the computers working together to solve the problem, i.e., transfer of funds from one account number A to account number B. Okay,
so and that's all on the ledger.
That's all on the ledger. So in a sense, they created a token called Bitcoin. They started sharing those tokens with each other. In the beginning, it wasn't worth anything. Before Pi Day, remember on the video I showed you, we could go show you that again. Before Pi Day, there had never been a transaction, as in like an exchange of Bitcoins for a good or service. After Pi Day, then it started to become valuable. There was cryptocurrency exchanges where people could onboard their US dollars or their Japanese yen and get Bitcoin in exchange for their money. But long before then, it was just a bunch of computer programmers sending back and forth to addresses, running their computers on a laptop was originally what happened. And they were doing these transactions and creating this ledger that was decentralized from all governments and all independent, like banking systems, manipulating systems. Like nobody even, it was so small, nobody even cared, right? So that kind of took place for quite a few years before it took hold. And maybe we actually play that video real quick. See that one? Go ahead. All right.
Can you guys see the TV? No? Okay.
We can see it, we can't make out what it is.
Okay, hold on.
Maybe you have a stool or something. I'll just take it close.
Yeah.
That's better.
That's good. Can you see it, Tim?
Yeah.
That's what's on cafe with them.
find this video on the web? And I mean,
Yeah. I don't know where it went. I'm honestly that it's not on here. And I apologize. Okay. I can search.
yeah. There it is.
There's one AI site building you need to be. This is dope tech. Money makes the world go around, but we could be moving towards a world without cash. From credit cards to Apple Pay and cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, cash is no longer king. When I say Bitcoin, you say what? Pizza. This is Laszlo Hanyet of Jacksonville, and it was a pizza delivery order 9 years ago that began the cryptocurrency craze. I just told people I wanted a pizza and I want to pay with Bitcoin. I didn't want a gift card. I didn't want some weird exchange. I wanted to give you Bitcoin and you give me pizza. The 37-year-old computer programmer created this thread in an online forum and posted that he would pay someone 10,000 Bitcoins for a couple of pizzas. A user from England took him up on the offer, and these pizzas were delivered to Hanyet's home. At the time, the 10,000 Bitcoins were worth about $40. Today, they will be worth 100 million. People ask me, "Oh man, what an idiot! Why don't you keep that Bitcoin?" And it's like, well, somebody had to start it off. The pizza was purchased at this Papa John's on Atlantic Boulevard. There's even a plaque on the wall with the date May 22nd, 2010, and a proclamation that Jacksonville is the home of the first Bitcoin purchase. Tim Mosbach is the general manager.
It's just nice to see history being made here.
So here's how you slice it on how Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies work. It's like buying and selling a stock. The difference is Bitcoin is a computer file, which is stored in a digital wallet app on your smartphone or computer. Every transaction is encrypted and is impossible to counterfeit. Do you trust Bitcoin?
That's a good question.
Don Wiggins is a professor emeritus of accounting and finance at UNF. He says Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are not controlled by banks or the government. You think the government fears cryptocurrency?
I think they do. It is anonymous and nefarious activities as well as perfectly legitimate activities can take place without the ability of anyone outside government specifically being able to track payments.
As for Hanyet, he says cryptocurrencies and a cashless society is a dawning of a new day. Do you think it's the future of money?
I do.
In a different kind of dough than pizza. Ben Becker, CBS 47, Fox 30.
All right. All right, that probably brings up some questions. Anybody have any questions?
Not why they call it Pi Day, because it was a pizza pie.
Yeah, so the Bitcoin world, yeah, Pi Day, yeah. They celebrate May 22nd.
So, pizza pie.
First, makes me want to go get some pizza now. Looks like you guys are eating pizza. Are you guys eating pizza right now?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
are.
they are.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Tim and Denise.
So question, so in the future, if the currency goes that way, how many people don't own Bitcoin? So then what do you do and how would you pay?
So there's two theories, right? One is that eventually Bitcoin will become like the world reserve currency, replacing the dollar. That's one theory. Another theory is that Bitcoin is going to replace, like, become digital gold. Like, instead of gold, central banks holding gold on their balance sheets, they hold digital gold, Bitcoin, because there's only 21 million ever that's going to be created. So with gold, you can mine more gold. The demand for gold, they suppress the price. There's paper gold. There's all different ways that the monetary people in charge have manipulated gold. And so these two theories are different theories, right? One says that everybody's going to be using Bitcoin as day-to-day, like as a legal tender, kind of, in a sense, as their currency of their nation state. I don't believe that's going to happen, but it could. Who knows? Like Bitcoin is divisible. When we just went into that right before you guys joined, it is divisible by 100 million. So you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can have a Satoshi, which is 100 millionth of a Bitcoin. So it can, within the network, within the transaction, the capabilities of the network, you can go very, very small, right? It's not just 21 million. Yes, there's 21 million Bitcoin, but I don't know, do the math on that times 100 million. And that's how many Satoshis there are. So it does have the capabilities of becoming possibly a currency, right? Because the need for currency is as the economy expands, you need more dollars to share amongst the economy. And that's why governments say they need to print more money, right? They've been telling us that for years. But yeah, so there's two different theories. I don't know, maybe did I answer it at all, or do I need to come back?
Yeah. So there's a possibility on your second example, I feel like you may have both. So you would still have the dollar or our currency that we have now, but then Bitcoin would just be like an addition to. So if you had Bitcoin, you could use it, or if you had a dollar, you could use it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah,
the CFTC, commodities, what does it stand for? They have declared Bitcoin as a commodity. So Bitcoin is regulated as a commodity. It's not regulated as um as like a stock or an
Okay.
equity.
Okay. So I don't know if you want to go there yet, but I do have questions about that.
Okay, that's fine. We can go there. Yeah,
I got a couple of
absolutely.
questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Am I hearing you say that Bitcoin may end up being the universal tap into for purchases and selling and stuff like that for companies and people and nations, et cetera, that the Bitcoin will be the common commodity that they will use for exchanging?
Yeah, theoretically, there's people that believe that that could happen. I I highly doubt that governments are going to give up their control over, in essence, their monopoly on trade. Because if that were to happen, like, why do you need the governments as much, right? One of the big components of governments is monopoly of the monetary system.
Yeah.
So I'm not of the camp that believes that that is going to be our future. I believe it's more or less going to be like a gold commodity that, because if you look at all the wealth in the world, half of all of the wealth is only held in, it doesn't have a use case. It's only to preserve that wealth for future generations. So like people buy Mona Lisas not because they want their kids to, throw paint on it or smear bananas on it and look at it. No, they don't even buy it to look at it. They buy it because they know another rich person in the future wants that Mona Lisa. So it's store of value wealth. So half of all of the monetary wealth in the world is only for store of value to transfer to future generations the wealth of my family, my sweat equity to my kids and grandkids and great grandkids. So if that's the case, then Bitcoin is positioned right now to actually solve a lot of problems because real estate has been a historical, really good store of value. But so has Mona Lisa's, so has all these things that rich people in the future want to buy. So in this way, it's kind of it, it decentralizes itself from, say, the US dollar and the manipulation that happens here. And maybe you're in Argentina, or maybe you're in Japan, or maybe you're in another country, and your country has the same problems that maybe some of the problems we're having here in the US. And the governments are manipulating your store of value for your grandkids. Well, Bitcoin solves this problem for a lot of people all over the world because now they can store their value in something that another rich person is going to want in the future, and it's decentralized. It's protected from nation state manipulation. That's the
So I'm
best sell I
wondering,
can.
So I'm wondering then, I'm getting the feeling, I could be wrong, I have been once before in my life, but I get the feeling that Bitcoin is kind of like um, a computerized value.
Yeah. Yeah, we can go into details about why it's valuable. Like, it's not valuable because a bunch of people on the internet got together and said that it was valuable, right? It's not like the federal government, right? That's what they do. It is instead, it takes resources and energy to solve the calculations, transferring from wallet to wallet, the computers, the nodes, the infrastructure, the manpower, the energy, the internet, to actually earn a Bitcoin. The labor that's inputted, and I can show you, we could show you kind of some pictures of what some of these mining facilities look like. But a Bitcoin miner is it's a there's a human involved, so it's either you or me or another person that believes in Bitcoin and wants to, create value for the network, and in exchange for creating value for the network, receive rewards called Bitcoins for doing the work. So what they would do is I would go and buy. In the early days, you could do it on your laptop, right? But as the network has become more and more congested and more transactions, then it becomes harder and harder. So they have specialized computers now, CPU processors that do all of the calculations. So then they wire them together, put the Ethernets together to put them onto the network, and they're doing this systematically now. The miners are like very large warehouses with cooling systems and just rows and rows and rows of computers all hooked up doing the processing. So that's how
Okay.
it's grown.
Last time I think I remember seeing Bitcoin's value, it was like $173,000 for one
Yes,
Bitcoin.
our all-time high is 124
Okay,
a few weeks
I
ago.
don't have 173,000 or 124,000. How much it is?
Yeah, so that's probably the most common question I get is like, whoa, the price has already surpassed what I can afford, right? And and how do I get in if I don't have 124,000? So that's why, going back to what I said when I said Bitcoin is divisible by 100 million. So you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin.
Same as gold.
It's just like gold. You can buy a
An ounce.
10 piece,
Okay.
yeah, 100 ounces, an ounce bar, an ounce coin, or you can buy the little paper shredded stuff, that's like you break in half, imagine that's what a Satoshi is. It's like the smallest amount of Bitcoin you can buy. And
Okay.
a lot of exchanges won't let you do less than, like, say, a $10 purchase, but you can buy $10 worth of Bitcoin and you will get 0.000 whatever, I don't know how many zeros is $10, but you could do the math, and that would give you that position in Bitcoin. Okay. And then that's why in Bitcoiners world, we call it stacking sats. Satoshis are the increments. And so we're just constantly changing our dollars into Satoshis. And as the governments continue to do their manipulation of currency, we know, that's why my shirt says, ask me about my plan. My plan is to stack sats consistently, trade my dollars for Bitcoin. I'm not 100% in Bitcoin, but I have most of my wealth that I want to transfer to my children, or down the road, I want to store it in Bitcoin because I know dollar terms they're manipulating us.
Will you go over that? Say you have two Bitcoins in the future. You save up enough, you buy enough sacks, and then you have two Bitcoins.
Right.
And those Bitcoins go up to $1 million.
Right.
Then in the asset class, you had said something about that you might be able to buy a house,
right,
based on that you have those. It'd be like equity
Yes.
in a home. You can buy more by taking that equity out, but Bitcoin has the same availability someday.
Right. Yeah, so Bitcoin right now is considered collateral. Bankers are lending against it now. You can do a 50 loan to value loan on your Bitcoin right now. If you ever reach there's a couple different banks that are doing it, but basically if I were to take a loan on my Bitcoin right now, and the one that is the most Ledin is the name of the company, they do a 50-50 loan to value ratio. So if I were to put up a whole Bitcoin, they would give me roughly, let's just say Bitcoin's 100,000 when it happens, they would give me 50,000 in cash. And the way that and I still own that Bitcoin.
Collateral.
It's collateral. We're gonna have joint custody. They're gonna have access to it. I'm gonna have access to that Bitcoin. So as far as our keys and who has access to that coin, we both have access to it, but I can't just go off and sell it, and they can't just go off and sell it. And then what happens is, as far as like a margin call, if Bitcoin was to go down to, if it's at $100,000 and it was to go down, I think it's a 75 loan to value ratio. So if it loses, I don't know the exact percentages now, but I think it'd be 25%. You would have to post more Bitcoin, or you would have to pay down that loan to get it under the 75 loan to value ratio. So that's the terms in that contract. It's pretty secure setup, because they're protecting themselves, because they're not going to want to blow up like other firms Ponzi schemes have in the past, right? So it's a legitimate company, legitimate bank that's doing loans based upon Bitcoin's value. And then as you go up in value, let's say it goes to $200,000 per coin, now you have the ability to go ahead and add to that. If you want more dollars to live on, or whatever you want to do with dollars, you could also go and do another loan or replace that loan with another 50-50. So that's how the banking system is coming in. Bankers are going to be very much involved in Bitcoin in the future, without a doubt. I mean, they've all hated on it until more recently, but the likes of JP Morgan now and BlackRock, all of them are all piling in on to get in on this trade, because in the world, it's like first they laugh at you, or first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then they join you and you win. Basically, it's kind of and so we've been in the fight you stage. The Biden administration was all fight you. They fought Bitcoin, they fought cryptocurrencies. Now we're in the join you phase, I believe, because Trump and the administration is very, very levered up on Bitcoin right now. His sons, their companies, all of the administration, from Bessett to the CFTC, all of these different chairmen and regulators are all Bitcoiners. So the future, I think, is very, very bright for Bitcoin.
So is it like so why, couple questions. So why would I invest in that instead of, say, gold and silver, because their value is rising also? That being said, I know Bitcoin seems to be going up faster and whatever, and the value may be a lot higher. So that's kind of the first question. The second question is, like gold and silver, I feel like the value of gold in reality probably should be around $8,000 an ounce.
That's what I said.
But because they suppressed it for so long and kept it down around 1,000, so what's to say that somebody can't do that with Bitcoin? And what are the chances of Bitcoin ever failing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good questions, all of them. Let's start with the first one. Why would you invest in Bitcoin versus, say, gold? So if you look at the average rate of return, the ARR of gold versus Bitcoin, it smokes it, right? That's one reason, just based on like average rate of return. Or also another metric would be what is it called? anyways, I'm not a financial advisor, so I don't know all the correct terms, but I hear them day in, day out. So it beats it on that level. If you want to just think of like acceleration of what I have today and what it's going to be worth in the future, it beats it on that level. But let's go into more like fundamental levels. Like, okay, gold, we know gold is used in computers, it's used for jewelry, it's something I can touch. It's like real estate, right? It has use case. So in a lot of like people's minds, it's like, well, I am more comfortable with use case than I am with some kind of new technology that I don't quite understand. And I get that big time. But if I would say, hey, give me $100 and you could invest into Google back in 1999, and just trust me, bro, it's going to be big. In hindsight, now everybody would be like, "You're stupid if you had that opportunity and you didn't give the guy the $100." Because today, $100 in Google is worth like $2.8 million, something like that, right? So there's that, but I get it. Like, this is the new idea. It's a big idea. And not a lot of people are going to be able to wrap their minds around it in the beginning. Down the road, when it's all, I mean, we're humans, right? We follow the herd in many senses. So when it's all uh, clear and trustworthy, it's usually too late to make those big gains. And so I say you have to take a little bit of risk. I'm not saying put your whole portfolio in it, but in these days, if you're going to have big, grand slams, you have to take risk. You have to diversify into things that you don't quite understand. And that's where I would say in gold is the store of value historically for generational wealth. Like everything, it's definitely a hedge. Um, you don't lose a lot of value. It continually goes up and to the right. Whereas maybe real estate's more like this up and to the right, a little more extreme. But stocks, bonds, they're all up and to the right. But gold has always been that, like in good times or in bad times, it always goes up and to the right historically. Bitcoin, on the other hand, it's very volatile. It's such a new asset. It goes extremely, really high and major greed all the way to the top, and then it goes all the way back down, and fear hits in, and fear strikes everybody, and it's going to zero, and it sells off. I mean, Bitcoin has had probably like 8 or 9 90% sell-offs in its lifetime. So it has gone to the moon and back down to the very bottom, to where it was going to, everybody was saying it's worthless. Ha ha ha, you guys lost everything.
But historically, it's showing it bounces back.
Yeah. I mean, as of just a week or two ago, anybody who bought Bitcoin was in profits because we were at a new all-time high of 124,000. So it's continuing to show itself. It's maturing as an asset. More and more money is going into it. It's now over a $2 trillion asset class. So, when you add that all in together, it's becoming a teenager. Before it was a child. Now it's a teenager asset class, and pretty soon it will be an adult asset class where everybody's just like, oh yeah, I've got 8% of my net worth in Bitcoin, or whatever the number is. Your last, let's see, you had another question. The last question was, I didn't write it down. Will it fail? That's one that it doesn't keep me up at night. I'll guarantee you that. But sometimes when the fear and doubt comes in, you think about systems, and you think about governments, and you think about control, and you kind of wonder sometimes if you made the right bet. But you can do that in real estate. I'm also very exposed to real estate, so sometimes I'm like, should I just sell this place and move? I mean, is the train going to derail and destroy my house? Do I have enough insurance? All of it, right? So you have those doubts come in your mind. But in reality, Bitcoin is the most secure network on the planet as far as computerized network. There is not one single network. I don't care if it's the CIA, FBI, central banks, governments. None of those networks are as secure as the Bitcoin network. It's never been hacked. In its early days, it had a little split or a fork where a group of people were like, oh, we want to go do this thing. So then they went and did this thing, and their network trended towards zero. Bitcoin's still alive. So it's never been hacked. It has gone down in its early days, but since I don't think it's gone down in over 8 years, as far as like if you want to make a trade on the network, will your trade go through? Since it's gained adoption, it has not gone down. So it trades 24/7, 365. It's always available to do a trade on the network. Or to send. You don't even have to do a trade. You can just send to say, I want to send Jake 100 Satoshis. I can do that. Boom, and it'll take place.
I was gonna say, and look at historically with gold and silver. What did our government do? They
Mhm.
came in and they said, will it happen again? It probably won't. But they did go to our grandparents and they took their gold and silver.
And they revalued it.
Yeah, then they revalued it. So, everything is sort of a risk. It's just one of those.
You got the battery.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
so
go
here's
ahead.
my next question is, so I have a Schwab account. Can you trade Bitcoin and all of the things related to Bitcoin through my Schwab account? Because I kind of looked some of these up. So I printed off a couple things. I don't know if you can see it, but all
Yeah.
the companies related to Bitcoin, I couldn't find any of them on ETFs, on stocks. I couldn't find them. So
Yeah.
how do you go on and where do you find those to trade?
Okay, so let's break it down. First off, what you showed me was other cryptocurrencies, and I know that's where we kind of got started, and then we just started answering questions around Bitcoin. But in the original question that I wanted to bring up that Linda here had asked was, what's the difference between Bitcoin and cryptocurrency? And what you showed me was cryptocurrency. So hold that up
Okay.
again, and I'll read a few of those names off. So we have at the top, we got Bitcoin, then we have Ethereum, Solana, XRP, Binance, Cardano, Dogecoin, HBAR, AVAX, SUI, Ondo, XLM. Okay, those are the top 10 tokens that are not Bitcoin. They are cryptocurrencies. Those are completely, imagine Bitcoin is a company that doesn't have a founder. It's decentralized. It's universal worldwide, but it is one company. Let's just call it a company for the sake of terms right now.
Okay.
XLM, Cardano, HBAR, those are different companies. That's Microsoft, Amazon, possibly Google. Okay, I'm not saying that those are good companies at all. By all means, those are cryptocurrencies. They use the underlying technology of Bitcoin. Remember the blocks, the
Yeah.
blockchains where the information settles. They use that technology, but they have nothing to do with Bitcoin other than they trade on cryptocurrency exchanges, and they have kind of like rode on Bitcoin's curtails, if you will. And they were founded maybe a few years after Bitcoin, or within the last 5 years after Bitcoin was founded. I think most of the top 10 companies that you mentioned, but they all have CEOs, they all have founders. We know who's involved. They haven't gone online and done, say, or not online, they haven't gone to the Securities Exchange Commission and asked to go public, right? Instead, they've been operating under this gray area called cryptocurrency and being sold on cryptocurrency exchanges worldwide. These are exchanges like Coinbase, you've probably heard of, Kraken, different names like that. Over in the UK and in Asia, it's Binance. Okay, so these exchanges sell these tokens, these coins, these cryptocurrencies, they're not Bitcoin, and it's kind of been in a very gray area. And that's and many of them have failed. Many of them, there's millions of cryptocurrency tokens. What stops you or I from creating one? Almost nothing. We'd go create one ourselves.
Trump did.
Trump did it. I mean, everybody's done these like type of.
See them gaining in value?
Some of them.
Some of them have a real life, solve a real life problem. Others of them are what we call poop coins. They just go to zero. They have no, they're
Okay.
meme coins.
It's like penny stocks.
Penny stocks.
Okay.
Yeah, they're, yep.
Okay, so when I was there last month or whenever, we kind of were talking about Bitcoin. So are there companies that are related to actual Bitcoin that for some reason or another will go up? Say
With
they're
Bitcoin?
valued, yeah,
Yeah.
like they're valued pretty low right now, and why would they go up?
Yeah, so that's where I get into the weeds. I should probably just be a full Bitcoin maxi, is what they call them, when somebody's just like 100% Bitcoin and nothing else. And I am, in the sense that I don't really dabble in those other 10 coins that you mentioned. I don't do too much dabbling in that. Is there possibly a Google or a Microsoft in those other tickers that you mentioned? Yes, there probably is. One of those, at least of those top tens, will solve some real world problems and take maybe the financial system or the real estate system and put it on blockchain and put it, make it more secure, make it more fungible and transferable. So is that Ethereum? Is that a Solana? Is that X? I don't know. Okay, that's all speculation. Should you have a position in those companies? It's up to you. It depends upon what kind of a risk taker you are. Bitcoin's completely different. Bitcoin already has proven itself. Like I say, it's an adolescent teenager right now. Those other companies are still children. We don't know which ones are going to be the winners. So, going back to like tickers that trade on the New York Stock Exchange, right? What companies are involved? And this is where I spend a lot of my time, is on treasury companies. These are companies that buy Bitcoin, and instead of holding cash on their balance sheet, or instead of paying back dividends to their shareholders, they instead buy Bitcoin. Okay. See the asymmetric trade here? They're buying something that's going to be valuable in the future, that's just been going up, 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 up to the right for a long time, and is now in its teenage day. And instead of holding dollars in the form of Federal Reserve treasury notes, they're converting their treasury completely into Bitcoin.
Hmm.
And they're an operating company. They might be a hotel chain, they might be a software company, they might be, there's all these different companies that are starting to do this, and it's called the Bitcoin treasury trade. And a lot of companies are it's gaining traction. We now have 200 publicly listed companies that have Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And I'm not talking just anybody. I'm talking like names like Tesla owns Bitcoin, right? SpaceX owns Bitcoin. It's not a publicly traded company yet, but SpaceX owns, okay. GameStop owns Bitcoin now. Other names that you might know that are the biggest one. Let me tell you the biggest one. The biggest one is ticker MSTR, MicroStrategy. And they
MS
recently
what?
MicroStrategy,
But I mean, what is ticker symbol?
MSTR.
TR.
I like that down.
And you would find that under stocks.
That on the stock.
Yes. Sorry, Linda was asking if this was a company. Are these companies that are on the stock market? And the answer is yes.
But they're invested in Bitcoin.
But they are invested in Bitcoin. Correct.
Okay.
And so when Bitcoin goes up, their stock is volatile, right? It goes up with Bitcoin, especially depending upon how much what their net asset value is of to Bitcoin.
Is there a list?
Yeah, there is a list of 200 plus companies now. Well, some of them are international companies, but there are 200 publicly traded companies nationwide or internationally that hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet. The biggest one being MSTR. They now own 600,000 Bitcoin. They
And
own
what
more
what
than
do they
5% of the entire supply.
what do they trade at? What's their
They're
tick?
there was a really good buying opportunity just recently of about $230 a share, but they have been as high as $500 a share, and they've done two stock splits since they started buying Bitcoin. When they first started buying Bitcoin, they were about a little under a $500 million company. and they are now worth $100 billion.
Then you both investing in?
Yeah, I'm
Whoa.
all in on MicroStrategy right now. I'm pretty bullish on MicroStrategy. There's a lot of different theories about MicroStrategy, but they're basically creating a money printer in a way because they're a big publicly traded company. They have access to really cheap capital, right? They can go to the banks and get money for like almost nothing, like a 0.5%,
Wow.
APR. So what they're doing is they're issuing debt and they're buying Bitcoin, they're putting it on their balance sheet, and they're not over leveraging. They have the entire game plan put out in their annual shareholder meeting. I would really encourage you, if you want to study that trade, go listen to the last quarter shareholders meeting with MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor, the CEO. Well, he's the chairman now. He's not the CEO.
So they're going into debt to buy.
They're issuing debt. Yep. Yep. And that's how they turned a $500 million company into 100 billion. Is using the debt. I wish I would have found this trade. I did find the trade 5 years ago. I just didn't buy in. I was buying Bitcoin instead. And I was dabbling in all the other meme coins, which I think everybody, if you don't have a good mentor or you don't really study this stuff and really, you get distracted. And so a lot of people go into the altcoins and all those other things that you showed me. They dabble and they diversify into all the cryptocurrencies. That's a distraction. At least it was for me like 2-3 years ago, because I rode it all the way up and all the way back down. I experienced a 90% sell off. And even more than that with the altcoins.
Okay, so let me see if I understand this. So the 200 companies that are related to Bitcoin, the only reason they're related to Bitcoin is because they've invested in Bitcoin. They're not like Microsoft, who there's a chip company over here that makes chips for Microsoft. And so when Microsoft goes up, this chip company is going to go up because they're doing it. So it's not like that. They're not making anything for Bitcoin. They don't do anything for Bitcoin. They just own Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's the treasury companies, they own Bitcoin. That's what they're called, treasury companies, because they hold Bitcoin on their treasury. Now, to go into your analogy there, there are companies that are publicly listed that do things for the network. For example, there's 20-something publicly traded mining companies, and you can buy those.
Now, are those worth buying?
So they go through even more extreme than Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's super volatile. Imagine doing a 2 or 3x volatility on Bitcoin. So you take the most volatile asset, then you just make it even more volatile. That's what Bitcoin mining companies are.
Why are they so volatile?
Because of competition in the network. They're constantly having to upgrade their systems, their processors. Their processors, NVIDIA makes a new chip. Guess what happens? All their old mining fleet is now old. And so if they're going to keep up with the competition, they have to retire the old mining fleet and put in new processors just to stay competitive, right? On the metrics perception. So that's one factor. Another factor is hedge funds like to short miners and go long on Bitcoin or on Bitcoin ETFs. So like there's the biggest Bitcoin ETF is the BlackRock ETF, right? IBIT. So they go long on IBIT, and then to hedge their position, they short a Bitcoin miner. So if Bitcoin goes down, they make money on their short position for the miner. And if Bitcoin goes up, then their Bitcoin miner short position expires worthless, but they made money. And so that's another reason why Bitcoin miners are volatile. I will say that's another reason. There's many, many reasons, I believe, because my first few years were all getting mixed up with all the altcoins, and I got distracted with that. So that was like probably year 1 and 2. Year 3 and 4 of my investing Bitcoin career was more mixed up in miners. and now the last year I've kind of gone a little bit more towards just Bitcoin and Bitcoin reserve companies that are holding Bitcoin. So when I was into the miners, really, I saw some really good gains, but I also saw some really big losses because of this manipulation that other hedge funds and traders are doing to hedge their positions. Now, will they have a very volatile explosion to the up and to the right? Absolutely, they will. But we have to get past, we have to do the short squeeze. We haven't actually experienced the true short squeeze that is coming. So once this, so there's a lot of people that are hedging their positions, meaning that they've bought in the underlying asset and they're shorting either the same asset or another derivative of it. And so what will happen eventually is the amount of available Bitcoin that's readily available to sell will dwindle to the point that there's not, the price has to go up exponentially. And so when that happens, that creates what's called a short squeeze, because anybody that is on the short side of the trade has to go and buy Bitcoin to cover their losses. And so what happens then is there's an extreme amount of demand for the underlying asset, and the price will go up quite a bit. So we haven't experienced that. When that does happen, Bitcoin miners are going to see probably like a 400% to 1,200-1,500% return in a very short window, just because of the amount of Bitcoin they hold on their balance sheet. Because they are also, remember, they hold Bitcoin, but then to pay for the internet, to pay for the electricity, they sell Bitcoin into the open market. But they are also a big part of the dynamics of the supply, the supply aspect of the equation, because when they decide that they're going to quit selling to the exchanges, that will also help trigger the bull market that is to follow. There's a lot of dynamics coming in, but there's a few dynamics specifically related to Bitcoin miners. There will be a time when you want to definitely go into Bitcoin miners. I just don't know that it's quite yet. I've got leaps, like 2-year expiration leaps that I own for Bitcoin miners, but I don't own very much of the underlying stock because it's too much of a waiting game right now. I would rather be more invested in Bitcoin itself, because if you can't time it, right? If it runs, it's going to run and you're going to miss your entry. So I try to buy Bitcoin, and then I buy other assets like MSTR, and I'm also very heavily invested in MSTY, which is another long story. We won't go into that today, but that's basically, it trades the volatility of MicroStrategy and issues a dividend. So it's like a fixed income type of asset that you can own.
Okay, so MSTR, MSTY you can find on the ticker symbol, like on
Right.
so, and then you can buy those just like normal stock.
Yeah, those you can buy, like, yep. Yeah, and if you want to buy like a Bitcoin, say you don't want to go out and buy actual Bitcoin, I would honestly suggest, if you're new to this, it might be better to just invest. If you want a little bit of Bitcoin exposure, to either choose a ETF, electronic traded fund, that trades to Bitcoin spot. So there's, I believe, 11 of them. BlackRock is the most liquid, and they own like 500,000 Bitcoin. So I don't know what it's been the most successful ETF in the history of ETFs, and its ticker is IBIT.
IBIT.
Fidelity has one. ARK invests with Cathie Wood. If you know her and like her, she's got a fund there was 11 of them that were issued. 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs. They're not futures, they're spot. So basically it's dollar for dollar. But you don't have access, you don't have the keys. In some ways, especially Bitcoin maxis would say I'm giving the worst advice in the world. the risk that you have with holding your own Bitcoin keys and learning the system is if you lose your keys, you lose your coin. But it's also true, not your keys, not your coin, is another saying that they always are spouting. So in order to have the actual Bitcoin, you have a wallet address on your computer, and then you have the keys to that address. And anytime you're going to send something to somebody, you have to put in your keys. But if you lose those keys, the best thing is actually honestly to learn about this and then become comfortable with it. That would be the best. Because if something really bad happens in America and you wanted to go to El Salvador, or you wanted to get on a plane or do anything or exchange value, if they shut down the internet and the other systems as far as the markets and stuff, and you still have your Bitcoin and that system is still up and running, you're still up and going. So in some ways, I like it for that aspect. But would encourage everybody who wants to learn about that to definitely do a very sound
research
and learn how to get your wallet set up correctly, how to mark and keep your keys. Like
sites to go to.
Yes, and I'm going to do more of this for you guys. I will get you guys actual videos to go and watch that explain how to do this. Because Linda here you said you were in Bitcoin when it was like,
No, we wanted to when it was 13 cents. We bought the wallet. It was so confusing, we sent the wallet back and gave up.
When Bitcoin was 13 cents, she bought a wallet. And it was so confusing and everything. They sent the wallet and the hard drive, the little keys thing back and gave up on it. So there's a lot of people with those kind of stories where it's been very confusing and they missed the opportunity. But none of us has missed the boat because less than 1% of the world's population even understands what Bitcoin is right now.
So is Bitcoin, does Bitcoin have a maximum value potential in the future, or could it just keep going and going and going?
I mean, in dollar terms, there's no
Yeah.
maximum value in dollar terms because the federal government is exporting dollars all over the world. That's their gig.
Okay.
That's the US dollar's gig. That's our country's gig is exporting dollars. So if our national debt continues to tick up and to the right, then Bitcoin's price is going to, I mean, it's infinity in US dollar terms until the US dollar situation is exposed.
Yeah. So if
and then
all right, let me understand. So if I went on, where would I go to buy Bitcoin?
physical Bitcoin, you need to go to an exchange, a cryptocurrency exchange.
Which I have Coinbase.
Yeah, Christy and I use Coinbase. That's where all of the, for example, BlackRock, right? BlackRock, one of the most trusted money runners in the world, if you want to call it that. They hold their Bitcoin with Coinbase as their custodian. So Coinbase is a public exchange. It's also a publicly traded company. You can buy their stock. Their ticker is COIN. But they have a app, a platform that you can go on. You got to do your KYC. You got to put in. It's just like going in and opening up a Fidelity account or a Merrill Lynch account. You got to do all of your background check. Once you're in, you can deposit, link your bank account, deposit money, and then you can go in there and buy Bitcoin, right? Now then, when you purchase that Bitcoin, it's going to be held on their platform in a wallet that they give you. If you want to take personal custody of that Bitcoin, you will then need to transfer that Bitcoin to another address that you create, either using one of many different types of platforms that will give you keys. You're buying a hardware piece that keeps the keys off the internet, but when you plug it in to the Ethernet, it will okay that transaction without putting those keys on the internet for somebody to, for you. You just don't want those keys on the internet. So what they do is they sell you a hardware device And then obviously the address is free. You know, there's unlimited addresses you can get on the Bitcoin network. So you have your personalized address. Now you have your keys. You can transfer that from your Coinbase account to this other address. And now you have personal custody. You hold your keys to that wallet.
So is that what you do, or do you just keep it in your Bitcoin account on Coinbase?
If it's a small dollar amount, I leave small dollar amounts on the Coinbase exchange. But any of my big HODL stack, I pull off of the internet. Yeah, it's not on an exchange.
So if you want to buy one and you said, I don't know, $10, $20, $100, what are those called?
Satoshis are the 100 millionth of Bitcoin.
And so when you buy something like that, it will come up and say you bought a Satoshi.
It will say Bitcoin BTC, and it will say 0.001, and then it'll go all the way out with all the other fractions of a Bitcoin that you have.
Okay.
I wonder what those numbers were.
That's what.
And then so at what point did you get your wallet and key and all of that stuff?
You
Or
mean
did you do it right
time-wise
away?
or financially?
Like I would say, it really depends upon the person, right? If your net, like for my son, his net worth is, I don't know what, $5,000. So it might make sense for him once he has $1,000 to pull it off of the exchange. For someone that has $100,000 net worth and they got, $5,000 or $10,000 on the exchange, it might make sense for them to. What I would encourage is to really understand and get comfortable with owning your own keys and also having a plan. And I need to work on this myself with my wife, but having a plan if something were to happen to me, that somebody else knows where the keys to the and how to use it. Because it ain't going to do you any good if you own a lot of Bitcoin and then you die and your family can't access it, right? So that's why I would suggest, and in the beginning, you can start the process of learning about it. And I have some good companies you can go to that will help teach you and educate you. They have a whole, what is it called? It's custodial, basically like a mentor. They take people and they help them navigate the process. I haven't done it personally, but there are companies out there that help do that and explain the whole process. Make sure you get comfortable with it. But in the beginning days, if you're just looking for exposure, there's nothing wrong with buying it, holding it on Coinbase. I would suggest Coinbase because it's the most secure exchange. Now, there's Kraken, there's Gemini, there's Binance, there's all these other Bitcoin exchanges you could go to and buy Bitcoin and open up an account. But I just say go to Coinbase because they're the most. That's what all the big guys are using. So it makes sense that they're the most secure. Yeah, they have the app. Yeah. Or you can go coinbase.com. Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions or did I?
No,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
none that I can think of right now. Well,
So are
this
they-
is kind.
Go ahead, Tim.
This is stock related, but not Bitcoin. So, what's your opinion on the government just bought 10% of Intel, and is that going to go through the roof potentially, or what are your thoughts on that?
Actually, that was one of my options for this meetup was to watch a video. And the video I can give to you, or I'll send it to Christy and she can send you the link of it. But it is mentioned in this video, that news. And so to answer that question, I think the old fiat system is over. I think the ability for the U.S. government to just print unlimited amounts of dollars and that affect not only our purchasing power, but the entire world's purchasing power. I think that gig is up. I think we're going to the Bitcoin system because we have Trump in office and he's signaling everything that that's what we're doing. So I don't think we're going back to gold. I don't think that we're going to be using like a central bank digital currency and just put it all on blockchain or something and still print dollars. I don't think that. I don't think the dollar's going away, but I think our status as the world reserve currency is going away. And I think the replacement for that will, if Trump has his way, it'll be Bitcoin. If Xi Jinping has his way, it'll be gold. And I think those are the only two people that really matter right now. I mean, maybe the Pope has a position. I don't know. But Xi Jinping and Trump are one wants gold, one wants Bitcoin. And remember, the reason why China lost its status in the world in the past was because when the world went to gold, it wanted silver. And that's why it lost its status in the world back in the last, not the last, but the time before the last, restructuring of the monetary system. And so we're going through a restructuring of the monetary system right now. That's unequivocal. Like if you study monetary theory, that is exactly what we are going through right now. And the people that are on the right side of the trade will make a lot of money and their families will be around for many generations. The ones that are on the wrong side of the trade, they're not going to have much to give to their grandkids. So I think it's really important to study this, be in tune with what's going on, what Trump is doing and what the administration is doing by buying stock in companies like Intel, and they're also going to be taking 30%, I believe, of everything from NVIDIA's sales to China. So every 30% of everything that's sold to China is going into the Federal Reserve coffers, or not the Federal Reserve, the Treasury. So this kind of signaling is very, very, it's saying to the world that like we're doing something different. And what we're doing, if you really, I say watch this video, is one of the best things you can do. And this is the condensed version. I can send you the full 1.5 hour version. And you're going to see this really young kid, looks like he's 20 years old, explaining all this stuff. But this kid has been he's my age, he's 30 something, but he looks really young. I'm 40 something, so he's younger than me. But either way, he's going to be explaining stuff about what's happening right now and where it's all leading into Bitcoin. And he's going to be explaining about how these trades within the UK, our allies, right? So our main allies, what Bassett just said, and this is what he's really going to break down, is what Bassett recently went on Fox and said was that South Korea, Japan, and the UK, instead of buying our debt from now on, they're going to be investing into infrastructure in our companies. What that signals is that the day of monetary printing is over. We're not just going to be able to print money. We have to actually decrease the value of our dollar. We have to become competitive to the rest of the world with our currency. And we have to become relevant again and start making things in the USA, because we have exported so much of our manufacturing to the rest of the world that it is a security threat beyond belief. We are in a really bad place, not just monetarily, but especially the biggest one, in which Jack Mahler goes into, is rare earth metals and all of our military stuff. We cannot manufacture military stuff without being extremely reliant upon China. And that does not sit well when our number one contender trying to dethrone us is China. So Trump is in many ways playing 4D chess right now with the world, with the tariffs, with what he's doing by positioning, Intel, buying a stake in Intel. Why is the US government getting a stake in Intel? Well, maybe because we're going to a Bitcoin standard in the future, and we need to, manufacture a whole bunch of chips and mining processors to control the network, at least a good portion of it in America versus China, Russia, or the rest of the world.
Very smart.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
that's what's happening. I mean, I could point you to other videos that are very big picture macro stuff too, of what could be happening. I don't know. I'm not saying that any of these guys are right, but once you start to see some of the puzzle pieces coming into place, then you start to say, oh, well, I see this is a picture of a this is a nature picture. It's not a picture of a man's face. I don't know who, where in the US this picture is, but I see it's a nature picture, and and that's what I'm starting to see with some of these things that I watch on a daily basis and try to keep tabs on. But for those who are starting to learn the Bitcoin thing and start to understand, if we succeed, I'm saying we, the USA and Trump administration, and that's the plan, and we succeed in that, anybody who's positioned in any kind of Bitcoin, even if it's 3, 5, 10% of your total net worth, you're going to see substantial gains. Anybody who's positioned in, like, say, stocks and bonds, or too much gold, a lot of gold exposure, or a lot of real estate exposure, a lot of stock exposure that's not correlated to Bitcoin, you may see gains, but you're not going to see the gains that even like a 5 to 10% position in Bitcoin will have over the next. And I'm not saying like tomorrow, I'm saying like in the next 5 years. You got to always have those bigger time horizons.
Oh yeah. Well, you mentioned in your talking rare earth minerals. So I know the Trump administration is looking at, I don't know what exactly, but I've heard them been talking about rare earth mineral companies, and that they're going to be starting to do whatever they do to try and get. So those companies, they were talking to, I can't remember who I was listening to. Someone saying those companies here in the future are maybe going to be worth a lot also because of what you were just talking about, how we have to go to China. And I think Trump's trying to get that here. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, definitely. There's a whole nother group of people that I don't really listen to much. When I first got into trading, I was into gold and silver and miners, like gold and silver miners, and playing the stock market, trying to figure out my way. Then I came upon Bitcoin, and the rest is history. But there are groups of people that I still every now and then click on and listen to, and they've had some guests on that are more in touch with the rare earth minerals, and there's some real upside for a diversification aspect. I would say absolutely, take some positions in some of these companies that have these big claims on rare earth minerals, because those, as we go back into the what would have been like, it's a rebranding, but the industrial revolution of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, right? This is like the tech revolution of that. So there's going to be, imagine everything that you need for computers and energy. If Bitcoin and energy is the future of wealth, then you got to think, okay, what does it take to make more, processors? What all is involved in making the hardware for it? It's just like back in the gold rush days, right? Some of the best companies that made the most money were companies like Levi, right? Because they made the pants, and they advertised and they positioned themselves for the miners' pants, right? And the picks and the shovels. So you look at that kind of picture too, is definitely a play.
All right. Yeah, I look forward to getting that video from you about the
Okay.
one you just said. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the future of gold and silver?
I don't think it'll lose its place. It'll continue to hold its position as like a hedge. But I don't think it's going to be.
Excel.
I think what really could happen is it depends upon who wins this war we're in. We're in a war right now between the US and China. And China wants gold. America wants Bitcoin, but most Americans don't realize that yet. Trump recognizes that. If Trump were to revalue our gold stockpile, and then that would be a huge attack on the gold. That would suppress the price of gold, right? And that would do damage to his enemy if Xi Jinping is really his enemy. And that would cause selling pressure on gold. That would do a lot of different things. So then if you were to take the amount of money that they revalued the gold to, and he went and bought Bitcoin, that would basically cripple China in their goal of making a new world reserve currency based on gold. That's what China's trying to do.
So if that were to happen, that'd be a trigger to sell the gold.
That would be, if you saw any of that happening, I would definitely try to sell your gold. I think you should always have some gold on hand for the sake of barter.
Right.
You know, so in that sense. But if your whole net worth is worth, you know, $1 million and you have $500,000 worth of gold, then I would say yes, get rid of some of that gold during that time, because and buy Bitcoin. Follow what the U.S. government is doing, because they're signaling what the future of the world is going to look like, because we are the world reserve currency, and we still have that status for a while longer. And unless the BRICS nations can really do what they're trying to do, which they're such a small percentage of actual global trade go into the BRICS currency, that's still a shot in the dark right now. But what Trump is doing right now is not so much in the dark anymore. I mean, if you just look at his cabinet, they're all Bitcoiners. They all own huge stakes in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
If you look at what the legislation he's doing, if you look at what they just passed, the Cryptocurrency Act, or the Stablecoin Act, he's now positioning himself, or the U.S., to be able to export U.S. dollars to every smartphone across the world. If you have access to a smartphone, you can now hold in USDT, which stands for USD Tether, or USDC, which is a stablecoin company that buys secure treasury notes, and they issue a token on a one-to-one value. Now, if you're in El Salvador, or well, it used to be El Salvador, but if you're in some third world country where your dollars, your yen, your peso is inflating at 60, 70, 80% year over year, and now you have access to a dollar that's very stable compared to that thing, what are you going to do? You're going to put your savings account on your phone, and you're going to do your day-to-day transactions in the local currency. And Trump understands this, and that's why he got the Stablecoin Act passed. We now have access to a whole bunch of capital all over the world, all of the unbanked, all of the people that are being suppressed by their governments through monetary printing and debasement. He's now giving them an exit strategy through the US dollar. That's just one side of the trade. That's not the Bitcoin side. That's just the USD. That's how you prop up the dollar's value. That's how you get more liquidity into American companies, because these are all American companies. Tether is now a publicly listed company as well. You can go buy the company Tether, which issues the stable coin. So he's propping up US companies. That's his goal in the future.
I hear that silver is one of the necessary components they need for business, and that the price on it is going to go up, 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 up. You see silver devaluing also?
I used to be in a silver trade before I knew anything about anything, and silver's been very discouraging because of paper silver, SLV. SLV has been manipulated by hedge funds and kept cheap for the sake of manufacturing. It should be much more expensive, but because they sell paper silver, they're able to suppress the price using the synthetic version of silver and keep it cheap for the manufacturing aspect of it. Silver should be much, much, much higher. I mean, silver should be, $400, $500, $600 easy.
They have the physical to back up
They don't have the physical to back up the paper silver. No, No, it's like
Scanned.
it's like gerrymandering, right? They fudge the lines to make it look like they have something, but they really don't. If everybody called on the silver for all the paper silver that was sold, if all of that had to be produced in one day, they would not have it, and the price of silver would be $500 or $1,000 or way more than what it is, because there's just not that amount of silver out there. But because they're able to play little games in the monopoly, they can push the price down.
What does paper money, paper silver mean?
So it's like an ETF. It's like you own a portion of you own an IOU for the silver, but it's just a ticker on instead of you holding the actual physical silver in your house, you just own say $1,000 worth of silver that's called SLV on your brokerage account at your Fidelity brokerage, and they sell you $100 worth of silver, but you don't hold it. Somebody else is the custodian, and they supposedly hold that silver
It's like a certificate.
like a certificate. Yeah.
But how does the military and the aircraft and the IT industries that need silver, how's that paper silver get silver for them?
They don't, the people that are selling the paper silver, they're not involved in the physical silver aspect. They're only involved in like being a mediary to the market, and they create a product that doesn't actually have any legitimate. If they had to go buy it, they would have to go out there and buy it. If you asked for your silver and there was a run on the silver market, then yes, you would have to. They would be at a loss.
But I think what my dad's asking is the companies who are making these products, they need silver.
Right.
So how do they get their silver?
Well, silver's mined at a pretty high rate out of the earth, so they're continuing to, buy it and mine it. And so the companies that need the actual silver for, like, say, solar panels or computer chips, there's plenty of silver out there. It's almost a byproduct of the gold mine, right? So it's being mined and it's being flooded into the market, but the bankers, the ones who issue these BlackRock guys, these guys are the ones that are pushing the price of silver down by shorting it. What they do is they sell paper derivatives of silver, and then they short it to keep the price low artificially. So as the more buyers that come in for it, the actual buyers that buy the physical silver, and then the miners who produce it and sell it out to the market, these other bankers over here are pushing the price down, and they've been doing it. It's been in, I think one of the big banks that have actually paid a very large fine being caught specifically on the silver shorting trade and manipulate. They actually paid a fine for it many years ago. So it's been known that they do this. It's kind of already. But if there was ever, it's just like if there was ever a run on the banks for dollars, are they there?
So in your opinion, if you owned $10,000 worth of silver, like physical silver, would you go in and sell half of that, say $5,000 worth, and then invest that in Bitcoin? Would you get rid of all of it and put it in Bitcoin? What's your opinion?
Nate would.
Yeah, these guys are all like, he would, yes, definitely. But you got an interesting point, because many years ago I sold my dad, I think, like 100 ounces of silver, and he's still sitting on it. And that was when I exited the silver trade, so he was my liquidity. But he was at the point where he wanted to get in, and I actually sold it at a loss because I bought it back when silver, I think I paid like $50 an ounce for that. So it was back right when it went like $62 an ounce back in 19 or 20, not 19. It was 2014, 2012, somewhere in there. I bought at the point, top, came down. My dad wanted silver. He bought it for me at whatever price it was. It went down a lot for many years since then, right? And then it's come back up. But he's sitting on probably break-even price silver right now. And the same question, I guess, if he were to ask me that question today, what would I tell him? I would say, yeah, keep half of it possibly, and sell the rest and get yourself a position. I want my parents to get a position in Bitcoin first and foremost, because right now they're land rich, they own their place. They don't have very much other assets, but what they do have is all in like ETFs and stuff. They don't even know what they own. And it's gone up 3 to 6% year over year, right? And I'm like, let's get you guys a little bit of position of something that's a little bit more certain. In my opinion, it's more certain. I know it's volatile, I know it's young, but with Trump and what's going on, like I think the writing's on the wall, and I think we just need to read what's written, which says, get off zero, get some allocation into Bitcoin. Don't go all in. Mostly educate. Like what you guys are doing right now is the most important. Education will help set you up for the next decision that you need to make. So I think that's, I can't give financial advice because I'm not a financial advisor, but I do have friends and I share what I know with friends and family. And I'm definitely kind of a Bitcoin evangelist, if you will. And I think there's a good chance that people that understand Bitcoin today, as long as they continue to educate themselves and learn about it and take a small position, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, they will not regret it.
All right.
That's what I want to know.
So the moral of the story is just keep educating
Yes.
yourself. Learn more, learn more, learn more.
Yes, absolutely. Linda says the moral of the story is to keep educating yourself and learn more. And I agree. Like my 5 years that I've had in the markets, I haven't made tons of money or anything. I have kind of gotten a little bit more where I'm comfortable, and I've gotten to where I've know how the game's played. But the biggest investment was not like one trade I made. The biggest investment was to start to educate and to start to learn. And what's between my 2 ears now, I know is my biggest investment. And that's why we started this group, is to kind of share some of that information and to let other people in on it. I don't, it's like, you want to go to heaven all by yourself? No, you want to bring as many people with you. Well, same thing with Bitcoin. I don't want to be the only one going up into the top. I want to bring other people along, and so that's where I'm at with this.
I have a question. So my dad was talking to me or mom the other day, and they were talking about they have Tim and them. They have a friend who's in Schwab, but I don't know if my mom and dad have. You guys haven't opened a Schwab account, have you?
No.
Okay, so they were asking about it, and I said, well, I think you have a Fidelity account, and you have a Fidelity, and so in the aspect of making a decision, if you want to start playing in this and dabbling or whatever, what is the difference? Why did you pick Fidelity over like Schwab or whoever else?
Yeah, so there's what they call legacy exchanges that have been around for ever since, the stock market was created, I guess. There's been all these different names, Merrill Lynch, all these money managing companies, right? For a long time. And I didn't know, like when I started 5 years ago, I didn't know the difference. I tell people this all the time. I didn't know the difference between a stock and a bond. So I was really dumb. I didn't learn much in school, I guess, or they just didn't teach it, right? That's probably the bigger one. But I didn't know anything. So the reason why I chose Fidelity is the number one reason was when I started educating myself, and I originally opened up, I think, what was called a Webull account. And it's kind of like it's the new kid on the block, right? It's the competition to no, Webull is an exchange. It's competition to Fidelity and Charles Schwab and all the rest, but Webull, Webull.
Yeah, Webull.
And so it's a new kid on the block, right? And it was the other one that came on was called not Kraken. What's the one where you steal from the rich?
Robinhood.
Robinhood. So Robinhood and Webull were two new exchanges that came about in the last 10 years, I guess. And I had opened up a Webull account. So I learned a lot about it and started trading stocks, and that was my very first exchange. Well, I eventually, after the Robinhood debacle that happened with GameStop, I really got into it, and I realized that these new exchanges were actually, it's kind of like Facebook and YouTube. We are the product. It's kind of scary. Our attention is the product. And so they were selling the information from all of this. We call us dumb money, right? There's institutionals that manage lots and lots of money. And then there's retail, and that's you and me. We manage our own accounts or whatever. That's dumb money. These companies were selling our information to these big companies. And I didn't like that. So I got rid of my Webull account and I went to Fidelity, which was the most pro Bitcoin and cryptocurrency out of all of the legacy exchanges. So that's why I chose Fidelity, because Fidelity is very pro Bitcoin. They actually have a separate, which you've dabbled with it. You can buy Bitcoin on their cryptocurrency. So they have a separate crypto. It's kind of separate, but it's in the same, right? I haven't even bought it. It's a different account. So I've never bought in Bitcoin using that one because I already had Coinbase, right? But you can, if you open up a Fidelity account, you can also buy Bitcoin on that account, and they will custody it for you.
So Dad,
Yeah.
Mom was saying that you have, I'm here. Mom was saying that you have a friend who is telling you something about Schwab.
Yeah.
And do you want to explain sort of what that is?
Well, he is a contact person at Schwab for sending them to some particular branch of what it is they're looking for. And so he told me that they have the custodial accounts.
Hold on a
And he-
second. Hold on a second. We have a train and I can't hear.
I can't hear.
I can't hear the train.
Oh, Sarah,
He's backing up or something and he was thinking, okay, go ahead.
Okay. He talked to me about a custodial account, and that would be because I want to invest for my grandchildren and great grandchildren so they can have something hopefully when they get older. And so he said that they have a SWPPX that they only charge 0.3% for managing it for you, and that I would have to call a certain number, and they would then help me open a Schwab account with that type of trading in mind.
Okay. So that to me sounds like they want to do you're hiring them basically to do what Jake is learning to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Nate is already done. So if you had Tim or Jake set you up a Fidelity account and start doing what they're doing, then you wouldn't have to pay that to 3.3%.
Just pay me.
Jake says you could just pay him and he'll do it for you.
Okay. That's fair to me.
That's a good grandson.
Yeah.
You what?
She said that's a good grandson.
He is a good grandson.
Okay.
You mentioned
Yeah.
SWP.
Here's
What's
what I'm
Jake
looking
doing?
at.
Let me see if I can
Oh.
move that for you.
Jake is in the business of helping people get into Fidelity.
Oh, okay.
So Nate's looking up what SWPPS means.
Okay.
So it's it's SWPPX. So let me just explain what he's selling you, okay? Because remember, financial advisors are very similar to, let's say, politicians, lawyers, realtors. We need them, but we really don't like the fact that they charge us so much and sometimes give us information and then they're like, well, you should have read the fine print. So this financial advisor is giving you the information that if you give him the money, he can set up accounts for each of your grandkids or however you want to do it. They're the owners of the account, so it would probably be called, I forget the name of the term. Depends upon if they're minors or if they're of age. But and then what he
Custodial
would,
account.
I'm sorry,
It's called the custodial account.
custodial account, right? So they don't have access to it, but if I'm not mistaken,
It's
you
for
can,
them.
yes, you can deposit, and there's going to be some tax benefits there. There's going to be, I have one for my son right now, that he uses. It's a minor, he's underage, so it's a minor custodial account. And then I set another one up for my stepson. He was 17. He just turned 18, and it switched from, he had a full access. He could buy and trade. So once you're 14, I think nowadays you can actually buy and sell on the stock market. So he was able to trade. He had full access. He could withdraw. But then once he turned 18, it turned it into a full-fledged individual account where he can trade anything and everything now. But anyways, so this account would be set up. But when he's mentioning SWPPX, if that's what he's going to put it in, if that's what your assets are going to be held in, all that is the S&P 500 index. So he's selling you the S&P 500 index. Now, if you want to go in there and put some Bitcoin in there or put some other assets in there, don't do the SLV, don't do the paper gold or silver or GLD. But if you were to put assets in there, right, and trade and do different things, then they're probably going to, I don't know Charles Schwab how user friendly their accounts are, but yeah, the SWPPX, all that is the Schwab version of the S&P 500 index.
Okay. Well, actually, this is a friend of mine that works there, but he can't sell me stuff. He said I would have to go to them and sign up with them because
Right.
I don't know exactly what he does, but he works at Schwab.
Okay. Yeah.
And
So
being diversified isn't something bad. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So, but is it going to benefit what he's wanting to do more than what you and Jake are sort of delving into?
yeah, it's pretty easy to open up an account with, whether it's through, any of the big, it's any of them. And then also custodial accounts are pretty easy to open up. Once you get the account opened up, the question then, and that's where I'm talking smack about the financial advisors, is they're all about risk adverse, right? They have to not lose you money. That's the name of the game. Don't lose your clients' money. Okay. They're not paid to go find the best trades out there. So that's why I wanted to start an investment club and have these conversations so that you and I, as the so-called dumb money, that we get to go and tell each other and share these ideas and go find things to buy instead of just having some financial advisor tell us, just go buy the SWPPX, which is the S&P 500, and only receive about a 7% increase year over year. That doesn't cut it. In this day and age, that's not going to win. That's not going to leave generational wealth for your family. You have to find some better trades than 7% because inflation is close to 7%.
Well, that's what he was saying, that 7 or to 7.5 is what their high is, and that's typically what they're usually working on accomplishing.
Yeah, that's what they want to give you. That they call it a success if they get 7-8%.
Yeah. Well, this is much more impressive and motivational to me than anything I've seen so far. In fact, I was looking at the idea of whole life insurance because I misunderstood what they were doing. And so when I found out what they're doing and how much money they're making off of me, it's like nuts. In fact, I have a health insurance that I got in 2020, I think, or 1999 even maybe. I have paid 38,000 into it. It has 14,000 there that they will let me have if I get sick. Oh, how fine.
Wow. Yeah.
Needless to say, that's closed now.
Yeah. 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 That's another one to add to the list is life insurance brokers. Man, I tell you what, I've been dabbling around with trying to understand it because mostly I want to understand it for protecting people because I understand that a lot of people are coming to me with financial questions, and if I don't understand like what they're asking, then I'm going to be ignorant or I won't be able to protect them from something. And I've got my parents as well that I'm trying to, help them out with some of these decisions. And the whole life insurance one has definitely been I've got another appointment with another guy and I would like to do it and actually record it because they're such scam artists, it's like it really it's like you got to invest all this money.
You get so little back.
Yes, and it's so little that you really are developing. And then they're like, well, but you got to do the big numbers, 40 years, 50 years of investing. And I'm like, man, if I would have just invested into something like Bitcoin or something that makes a lot better return, I'm not just saying Bitcoin, but like if I would have even in the S&P 500 would have way more money than what you guys are showing me that you're going to have at the end of 40, 50 years.
Right.
So it's just another way for them to kind of skim off the cream off the top of people's liquidity that they have. And I'm not a fan of it. And I honestly want to kind of expose some of this life insurance stuff that's out there.
Well, you are being successful. Thank you.
Right office. But can Christie sell that? Can we trade all the money we put into that dollar?
So I was going to ask if say that you have I don't know say that you have I'm in the mirror, so say that you have an extra $1,000 a month, okay, and you were to advance, get educated, be involved in all this, what can you say in a year, and every month you put $1,000 in, what kind of benefits are not that you're being held solid there, but what kind of benefits are you maybe looking at? Well, what would you if you're going to put that much money, $1,000 in, and do it for a year? What would be the benefit? Like if I were to buy Twitter stock, I would be able to know that I'm putting in, $100 or $1,000 a month, and then I would be able to, I don't know, have a certain percentage depending on the markets and like that. But versus, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like encouraging somebody. If you have an extra $50, put it in and start learning and doing this stuff. Are you going to see a big advantage in 2 years, 5 years?
Well, we could do the math on it. So let's just say you have $1,000. You're putting $1,000 in every month. That's $12,000, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So $12,000. Bitcoin has the ARR of 33%, 30%.
Okay.
Wait.
What does ARR mean?
Average rate of return.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, it's not 33%, it's 60%. Sorry. Average rate of return of 60% once you zoom out over 4 years. Okay, you can't just look at it on a year over year because Bitcoin goes through cycles just like real estate, just like stocks, just like bonds. It has cycles, bull and bear cycles. Its cycle is about a 4-year cycle. And the reason it's a 4-year cycle is because the inventors of Bitcoin knew that we elected a new president every 4 years. So it wanted to follow that cycle. We also have a liquidity cycle of government debt every 4 years. Also coincides with the US elections. So the Bitcoin inventor invented Bitcoin to have a 4-year cycle. Every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that you get for doing the work that you did yesterday gets cut in half every 4 years. So the amount of supply goes down, the amount of Bitcoin that's coming on to the network and available to be traded gets cut in half every 4 years. So when you zoom out, the average rate of return is about 60% for Bitcoin over a 4-year cycle. So you do 60, $12,000. Your first year is you add 3,900. So let's just say $4,000. So now that's 16,000. And then you do that. Oh, wait. No, that's sorry. I did 33%. Yeah. Thank you. Let me redo that. 12,000 times 60%, 0.06.
That'd be 6%.
Oh, sorry.
He has clumsy fingers.
Basically, you're saying it's going to make 15% a year over the next 4 years, which would be
60.
like $1,800
No, it's
on
not.
your 12,000.
It's
No,
not 0.06. It's 0.6. So 7,200 the first year. No, it won't happen just like first year, second year, third year. It's saying if you purchase and you hold for 4 years, that will compound on itself at an average rate of return of 60% per year, compounded.
oh, 60%.
I think the actual technical term is CAGR, which stands for compounded annual rate of return. So the CAGR is 60. And that's saying your first year, you got to do the math, and it's what, 7,200. So now that turns it your 1,200 into
19,000.
19,200. And then you do another times 6, 0.60. Add that, do that for 4 years, as long as you're willing to stay in it for 4 years. Now, during that time, if you bought at the top, it's going to go down a lot. It could go down, like historically, it can do 80, 90% corrections. But you hold that same amount of Bitcoin, that $12,000 Bitcoin, now it's worth, if it goes down 90%, you're only got $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. But then as its cycle comes back up, you have 3 up years, 1 down year historically with Bitcoin. So there's 1 completely red year, and that's your 90% sell-off. It'll come back up.
So then why wouldn't you, after
Where we
3
are
years,
now.
just automatically sell your Bitcoin, hold on to the money, let that year go by, when it goes down to a low point, whatever, rebuy it?
Yeah. That's what most of the multimillionaires in Bitcoin have done. They've learned to time the market. They understand what's going on. This time it's different. And I know in investing, they always say, never say this time it's different. But this time it's very different because we have Trump involved. We have federal governments involved. So the Bitcoin cycle of the 4-year on, 3-year on, 1 year off cycle is probably going to go away. We don't know yet, but this time it is very different because we have nation state adoption. First, it was just retail, and then it was a little bit of dabbling of the institutional money came in a couple cycles back, and then a lot of institutional came in, and then we had the ETFs issued, and now we're having nation state adoption. We have big players. Eric Trump just said that there is a nation state out there that just bought 200,000 Bitcoin. Yeah, 200,000 supposedly. That's what he just said. That just broke like 3 days ago.
So let's say in 2 years, 3 years, when Trump gets out of office, whoever gets in office, and we'll say Bitcoin's at 150,000. All right. Is there a tail that you can see that you will be able to get out of Bitcoin if you want, so you don't lose all that money? Or does it all happen in one day? It goes down to 50,000.
No, it's pretty slow. I mean, in relative terms to the stock market, it's really fast. But you can have, I think the biggest day that we've seen on a sell-off or a move has been about a $10,000 move in Bitcoin. We just had a $4,000 move after Jerome Powell spoke just yesterday, Friday. We had a
Down or up?
$4,000 move up.
Oh,
It's since come back down $2,000 today. But like you can see now as we're getting more and more price exposure, we're at like in the 120s now, 117s. You're seeing about a $4,000 move. That's a big move. In the past, we could have every cycle's different, right? Because the first cycle was from $1,000 to $3,000 price point, right? Then the second cycle was from 3,000 to like 20,000. Okay. And then the next cycle was from 20,000 to 70,000. And then this cycle has been from 70,000 and up. And we're still at the bottom of this cycle right now. This cycle in the 120s, we have a lot of room of upside.
Okay.
My Bitcoin prediction at the end of this year is going to be well over 150,000, and that's just in a few months, right? So every bit of above 150 at the end of the cycle, my Bitcoin prediction is 250,000. So let's
Yeah.
say the cycle ends in a year from now or 18 months from now, I expect Bitcoin to be at $250,000.
That's what everybody else is saying too.
So that's a pretty good return on your money right now compared to 8%, buying the S&P 500.
And that's dollar for dollar, you're saying. If I put $50,000 in, it goes up 100,000. So now I have $150,000 cash if I pulled it out.
Yeah, if you were to make that trade, pay the capital gains and pull it out. Yep. But the better move would be to borrow against it, in my opinion.
You when you pull it out, you got to pay capital gains.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Aren't they talking about changing that though?
Well, that's another interesting thing that Trump is talking about is actually getting rid of capital gains on Bitcoin. If he does that, that's going to be an OG move. Like that's going to be
that'll be huge.
A
Yeah, that'd
gangster
be
move.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So that means you can go in and out of the Bitcoin market without paying capital gains, and that would be huge. That would be a flood of capital as well.
So do they take it out automatically before
you have to file taxes. You have to.
Okay, so well, what if you? So usually you have a year to do that, right? Or within that year, right?
You can claim losses against it too if you have other income and other. Like
But
if
what
you're
if you
running
pull
a
it
real
out?
estate portfolio and you're doing that, then yeah.
What if you pull it out and you hold on to it and it goes down $10,000? You're like, oh, okay, I'm going to jump back in, and you put that money back in. Do you still have to pay capital gains on it?
If you
Since
pull
you
it out and
reinvested
deposit,
it?
if you put it into your bank account, it depends upon which exchange you're using. And I'm not a CPA. You're gonna definitely this is some of the gray area that we've been dealing with now for a long time. So that's where it's very interesting because that's the original use case of the US dollar stable coins. So instead of putting it into their bank account and bringing that money home to Papa, instead they put that money into a USD or USDC or one of the stable coins, and they held on to it for a while, right? Still on the exchange where they're trading, and then they re-entered, and they would never pay capital gains on that because it wasn't an actual declared on your bank.
Just kind of like a holding.
Yeah. Yep. So you can, and that's where all the exchanges have the stable coins on there, and that's what most of the day traders, swing traders, all those guys, that's what they do. They just hold it in USDC.
You can sell it. You can sell whatever. Put it in that, and then once you see it down at the bottom, then you can reinvest it from that account and put it back in there. But you can't do that if you put it in your bank account and then you take it back out.
Yeah, I think any CPA or attorney that understands this will say once it hits your bank account, you owe that money capital gains if you made money on it.
Because in real estate, isn't the rule that you sell your house, you buy another house within that year, you don't have to pay capital gains tax?
If you do the correct 1031 exchange, yes.
Yeah. Huh.
No.
Yeah, and
You can buy.
that would be a huge one if Trump were to get rid of the capital gains on Bitcoin.
Well, that's just not right. I don't care how you swing it. That's your money. You're investing it. Where does the
Tell me
government
about
get
it.
off thinking they can take your money? It's like, what in the world?
It's legalized theft is what it is. The federal government's
Exactly.
just legalized theft.
Exactly.
And they've been getting away with it for a long time.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I gotta go, but that's been really good information.
Well, good. I hope you all learned something. And if you have any other questions, I'll definitely try to respond or come and join us again.
Can you
Okay.
monthly?
Yeah, grateful for letting us in Arizona join you.
Yeah. Yeah, this is nice, actually.
Yes,
Might
we'll
have
do it
to-
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in Arizona, and even in Arizona, people can learn.
Awesome.
Let's do this monthly.
Yes, this is a monthly meeting that we've been doing here for the last 2 months now. We've been doing an investment meeting. This meeting we said we're going to talk more about Bitcoin.
Hi, Chrissy.
Hey, Tim, you can go ahead and stop the recording.
Okay.
And then will you send that to me?
If I know how.
Right.